Welcome to Speak Well Partners 12 Minutes to Mastery monthly webcast. We're so happy you've tuned in. And for any newcomers, I'm Charlotte Dietz, and I am definitely a cat person.
And I am Barbara Roach, and I'm definitely a dog person.
Yes, you are. And about 8 years ago, Barbara and I evolved from strictly friends to business partners in order to achieve one simple mission, which is to eradicate death by PowerPoint.
That is so true. And in that effort, we have done a lot of work to become a full-service provider of tips, tricks, and techniques to help all of our clients refine their presentation skills.
And we offer these 12 Minutes to Mastery webcasts to allow us to bring you the latest in the art and science of skilled communication in less time than it'll take you to hail an Uber cab. Today we're here to convince you that your next presentation must include at least one well-told story.
Hear, hear. And on the other side of that, we are constantly talking to our clients about convincing them that they should tell a story. And a lot of them, especially the data-driven clients, they're reluctant to embrace the concept of storytelling. They'll say things like, it seems so mushy and earthy crunchy.
Or my pet peeve, people call it, that's a soft skill in communication. What?
Yes.
I've even had one client called it trickery used by motivational speakers.
Watch the birdie. I mean, really. And then another said, I know storytelling is all the rage right now, and I'm a little sick of it. Why can't this totally awesome pie chart stand on its own?
Well, first of all, it's not a totally awesome pie chart, but if you think it is, and as long as you don't need your audience to remember any of those tiny slices or even the big slices, go right ahead, enjoy your fact-telling. But for today, we want to show you the how and the why a story will help you realize your presentation goals. And if you think this is a great pie chart, I just want to offer you the opportunity to go to our website to episode 1 of 12 Minutes to Mastery, where we talk about using data for powerful display. At least make the pie chart better. But onward, Barbara.
Yes. Great. Okay. So then let's begin today with a study by Jennifer Aker, a social psychologist from Stanford. And we put here the upshot of her research, which is that stories are remembered up to 22 times more than facts alone. Now, one of the ways in which she got to this finding is that she assigned all of her students a 1-minute persuasive speech. Now, on average, speakers spoke in a declarative manner and shared 2.5 statistics. And only about 1 in 10 told the story. And at the end of the presentations, Aker had the audience rate all the speakers, and not surprisingly, the most polished presenter got the highest marks. And Charlotte, we're always talking to our clients about this style versus substance, and sometimes style wins, but really not that long. It's very short-lived.
Exactly, and we all can get caught up in the glitter, I understand, of a shiny, sleek veneer, a polish. Yeah. And of course, every presenter wants to present their best selves. But Aker's study wasn't about uncovering polish, it was about memorability. Speakers that are memorable and leave their audience with something they can hold on to. So what she did after she had all the students rate each presenter was she built in a nice 10-minute break, and here they probably all went to their phones, and then she asked the students to write down the specific points they remembered from each talk.
And of course, here's where it gets really interesting, because only about 5% of the students remembered any statistics. But 63% remembered the stories. That's astounding.
It is. It is and it isn't. I'm not surprised by it, and we hear about these results all the time. We see these results when people wrap things in story all the time, and yet still we get this resistance. I don't want to tell stories. But recently I went to a very science-heavy TEDx event where one speaker who was a behavioral psychologist was sharing her research about how groups think affects individual behavior. And she was, a lot of data, a lot of results of her study. She didn't use many visuals, but one of the things she did do was she told a hilarious story about how she and her fanatic Red Sox husband went to Yankee Stadium when the Red Sox were playing the New York Yankees. And she describes herself as, she's not really a Red Sox fan, she's not really even a baseball fan, but getting caught up in the whole energy of the event, she found herself almost in fisticuffs with some Yankees fans in the ballpark, which was, we were all just hilariously laughing in the audience.
And damn straight, because that's what Red Sox Nation does when they need to represent their team.
Really? Is that what you do?
Well, I don't get into
Not me.
fights, but
don't even relate at all. And that was what made it so much fun, because there we were in Boston, and we really understood the rivalry, but all of us could see it and feel it. And as a result of this story, we really recognized the power of groupthink and what can happen to an individual in a New York minute. Yeah. And so we all intuitively understood what she was trying to say, and I still remember it weeks later. So the allure of a well-told story is there, and we can recognize its effect on memorability. But the question is, Barbara, is there hard evidence that supports this?
Well, there absolutely is, but because we only do 12-minute recordings, we're going to have to fast forward through 100,000 years of evolution when our cave-dwelling ancestors relied on verbal and visual communication to survive. And the theory is that because of all of that communication, the circuitry in our brains has developed, and now we are hardwired for story. Now, safely back in this century, scientists have discovered an extraordinary byproduct of this wiring called entrainment.
It's amazing. I mean, our brains physically evolved through the process of storytelling, and today scientists can see the brain at work, and they've mapped and decoded the circuitry using the fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, and it tracks blood flow that accompanies neural activity and creates this color-coded contrast you see that highlights where neurons are firing.
Yeah, so cool.
I know. I love it so much.
Yeah. And it means that scientists can actually see what happens in the brain when a presenter is speaking to us. So when we're presented with facts, bullet points, and data, our brain's going to do its decoding job. But without additional context for making sense of all that information, that data is going in one ear and out the other. Blah, blah, blah.
Right. And our unconscious mind is processing something like 11 million bits of information a second. So we're constantly have to sort through to make sense. What they've found, scientists, in looking at fMRIs is that when people tell stories, the brain picture shows a very different picture. And the most amazing part is this. Not only when I'm telling a story do all the cortexes in my brain fire and engage my whole brain when I'm in a telling mode, but the very same areas, the very same cortexes are stimulated in your brain when you're listening. And this is called entrainment, or what a leader in this field, Yuri Hassan from Princeton University, calls brain-to-brain coupling. And this is ultimately the ultimate synchronicity that human beings have in communication.
And who doesn't want that kind of synchronicity with their audience? I mean, it increases the likelihood that we're going to be influenced by you, the speaker. Otherwise, why do we even stand up and talk? So, Charlotte, if this story instinct is hardwired in our brains, why is it such an effort to get speakers to incorporate stories into their presentations?
Well, that's the $24,000 question, but I'd say there are two reasons for that. The first is that most presentations are judged by their rigor, their analytics, their logic, which of course is extremely important. But, well, we can talk about what that leads to next. And then the second reason about why it's so difficult is because many of us, many speakers, suffer from what you and I call this protective podium syndrome, where our competing fight or flight instinct causes us to physically and mentally put roadblocks between us and our audience. It's counterintuitive, but we see it happening all the time, hence death by PowerPoint.
That's right, because we're using the PowerPoint as a crutch and a tool to not have to engage. But enough about that soapbox. We'll get down off of it for now.
Okay, sorry.
And it's reminding me all these examples you gave about why not story of the workshop I dragged you to by a noted expert in our field, because I was sure it was going to be filled with great ideas for our then fledgling business.
Right. His reputation was Superman, and I remember feeling that I was supposed to be so impressed by him. But throughout the day, and, you know, I elbowed you all day long, all he did was talk at us.
Yeah, I know. It seemed as if he was operating on autopilot, and you could tell he had done the presentation 100 times.
Right.
And then there was this notable shift where we all started to pay attention because, as you remember, he told that great story with that one eye-catching visual, and the story was about heartbreak and death and ultimately triumph, and we were riveted.
Right. I remembered because I kind of looked up from whatever I was distracting myself with, probably web surfing, and I actually started paying attention. It was dramatic.
Absolutely. And then the rest of the time, we decided that really what we were getting was that expert syndrome, where he just felt like because he had all the information, he just needed to lecture, and that was it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And yet, when he told that story that captivated all of us, we experienced entrainment, what we just talked about, the brain science. And not only did you and I experience that, but you could just tell all 500 people that were in the room that day, they experienced that as well. It was incredibly powerful. And after a full day of presentation, a few years later and even a week later, it's really the one thing I remember that I take away from that day with him.
Sure. But our time is flying by, and look, the Uber driver is right outside, so we'll have to wrap this up.
Okay, well then the big takeaway for listeners is this. If you want to have an impact on people, you must make your content, your data, the analytics, it has to be compelling and memorable. Influential presenters are memorable, and it is scientifically proven that the best way to do this is through story. So if you're struggling to craft a story from the mountain of information you need to share with your audience, please let us know. We can help you find, there you go, the diamond in the rough. So send us an email, give us a call. We're here to help.
And I'll just add really quickly that the best thing you can do right now is go out and tell a story. And
that's right, Barbara.
Obviously, we'll give you some more help next month. But if you can't wait, go to speakwellpartners.com/freebies, and you'll see 2 videos on structuring a story and how to tell a story.
That's excellent. And next month's 12 Minutes to Mastery webcast is going to be about finding the smart business stories that you need to tell. So please tune in for that as well.
Absolutely. And until then, enjoy your storytelling.
Yeah, have a wonderful Thanksgiving and the rest of November. We'll see you in December.
Definitely. Bye-bye.